we have a theme every month. For the month of January, it's about abundance. Now, this doesn't mean just money, right? Because there's so much abundance around us. It's not just about money. But today I'm going to talk a little bit about money. Actually, today I'm going to talk about butterflies, but that's okay. You'll understand when I get there. So, the analogy that we have to struggle. The analogy of the butterfly within the cocoon. Now, how many have heard that? That they have to stretch, and they stretch their wings, and they have to break out of their cocoon, and so that struggle is necessary. That's what we get from that kind of analogy. And the analogy, for me, is spiritually ineffective. It's spiritually erroneous, okay? It's also scientifically erroneous, and I'm going to tell you how that works too. So a butterfly actually is not in a cocoon. There's only a couple of moths in the world that actually are in cocoons. A butterfly is in a chrysalis or a pupa, all right? So when we start to impose on the natural world what we think in terms of human perspective, that's how we see everything. And that, my friends, is also in alignment with some of those beliefs that you have to struggle, that things are hard. All right, so the butterfly takes about 2 weeks to get out of the chrysalis. And about a day before, 24 hours before it emerges from the chrysalis, you begin to see all the colors of its wings through the pupa. And then what the butterfly has to do, along that chrysalis, it has to find the line of weakness in order to get out. And that's what I want to talk to you about. If we're going to use a process like that, let's use it correctly. So isn't that what happens? The moment that you start to find your spirituality, it's not about struggle. It's about joy. It's about experiencing. And when you start to change, and if you have this experience, you know what I'm talking about, people say, oh my goodness, what's happening to you? They begin to see all the colors of you come out. And now, listen, you're not out of your chrysalis yet, but you're starting to emerge. And what you need to do is find your line of weakness. And I'm going to suggest to you that the line of weakness is to focus on God rather than yourself. When you start to think that you are not glorious and that you are unworthy, then you're going to get more of that. When you realize that the divine is always glorious, that the divine is unlimited, and the divine is working through you. You are the divine in human form. How can you be unworthy? That's your line of weakness. That's the line of weakness right there. You start to believe that, and everything starts to change. Listen, 6 months ago, we decided to go to Sundays. We didn't have this place. There was nothing. We decided to go to Sundays. And some people said, well, that can't happen. It's too expensive. There's too much to do. I don't know the word no, okay? I don't know what that looks like, because I know I'm unlimited. And I know that the people that are with me are unlimited. I know that the students at the school are unlimited. I know you're unlimited. So when I look out, I go, hey, of course we're going to do this. And those that want to do whatever, they follow. That's how people have, made it in the world, made their money, made their greatness, whatever. It's because they don't have limiting thoughts. They know who they are. Now, it takes a little time to change, because if you think back and somebody came up and said, okay, did you know that the world is not flat? Can you imagine what it would be like to live then? Oh, are you kidding me? Because you're always in fear of well, what if I go this extra space and that's where the world ends and I fall off, right? So, no, the world's not flat. Oh, but you've spent your whole life, everything you've believed, everything around you is in alignment with that the world is flat. And you're probably in that conversation say, oh, but, right, the world's not flat. Okay, and we're not the center of the solar system either. Go ahead, tell me that one, right? It's that sort of thing. We have these belief systems that limit us and our understanding of how we move and breathe. in the world. So every month, when you pay your bills and you're groaning about your bills, that's a limiting belief. If you didn't have your bills, there wouldn't be this thing called electricity. There wouldn't be people having positions and working and adding to the economy. I always, and when Bruce does it, my husband Bruce, thank you in the memo. Thank you. Thank you for this. Because of course I can pay that. Of course there's always enough money. Why? Can anybody tell me why there's always enough money?
Unlimited universe.
What's that?
Unlimited universe.
Unlimited universe, right? Who's going to tell God that there's only so much in the bank, right? I'm sorry, God, there's only so much in the universe to go around, so the God in you does not know that. Now, the human being has spent their whole life with family and friends and society telling you that, look, eat your dinner because people are starving, all right? We can't buy that because we don't have enough. Now, we used to be like that when Bruce Jr., our son, was really young. One day he wanted something from the store, and I said, oh, honey, we can't do that. We don't have enough money. And he said, oh, that's okay, Mom. Just drive to the bank and get some more. That's how that works. That's how children think, right? I just drive to the bank and get some more. Now, if you understood that you live in a universe where you could drive to your spiritual bank and get some more, wouldn't that be different, right? Wouldn't that be different? But everything around you and everyone around you is scurrying for more, worried about lack. You are responsible for changing not only your own world, but everybody around you. There's a burden for you today, huh? You are responsible once you know this. And I'll tell you what, when you're in a community where you go, hey, like the other day, I was saying something to someone, and I think it was Donna, and she's like, why would you say that? And I realized, just general talk. I was talking about lack. That's how embedded it is in our psyche. But when you start to catch yourself and people catch you, then that's what you do. You go out, and when you're in line at the store, okay, so Michael and I, that's our youngest, was at the store during Christmas time, and this woman started talking to me. And he's like, oh, because he has to look like, oh, Mom has her sign on, Reverend at large, right? He goes, how did they know? I said, they don't know. They don't know. I think they do. Everybody does that. So, if you go to the store with me and we go through the line, it's a long process. And so she started telling me about all of these things, all this lack in her life, all the problems that she was having. And, what I did was I held the presence. When you can't do a difference with the words or it's not appropriate, hold the presence. Hold the knowing for people. Hold the knowing for yourself. Now, the other thing that happens with the butterfly is that in the chrysalis there are little holes. And the air comes in through the little holes, and the butterfly starts to breathe. And the butterfly takes the breath in, the oxygen into the body, and actually digests it. And then the body expands. And that's when that line of weakness, that the chrysalis breaks, and the butterfly is free. So as you start to understand this, as you start to understand what's real in your life, and you start to take that kind of breath of fresh air in, because it does feel like a breath of fresh air, you start to take that in, your whole understanding expands. You can never be limited when you start to expand your universe, expand your sense of knowing. As you breathe that in, that knowing, the understanding of who you are. And it's not, we get kind of hung up. It's not just about money. If you are just thinking about money, you're also limiting yourself, because you're still trying to chase it. You see what I'm saying? You're still trying to chase it. There's nothing to chase. You're not at lack. It's just a thought. And I like to say, you don't have to think or have to believe every thought you think. I think a lot of thoughts. A lot of those are unreal. So, and you think a lot of thoughts about yourself. I'm unlovable, I'm unworthy, I don't have anyone who cares about me. I love it when I say to somebody, and I'm saying, how you doing? They say, I don't have anyone who cares about me. Okay. What did I just do? It's all the way that we, think about our lives. We get blind to what's right in front of us. So as I was just thinking about some of the students that I teach, when they first come into the school, to the Center for Awareness, and they first come in, they're all like jacked up, ready to go. Woo, let's go. Yeah, I'm ready to change my world. Yeah, gotta do it. And then about a month later, they're like, oh. And I say, things are gonna fall apart. But at first there seems to be these miracles. Now, I don't know if you've experienced this, but if you remember when you first were awakening, the world looked brighter, everything was great, right? And you were just like, oh, my goodness, this is just so wonderful. And then, out of nowhere, bam! Like, what? What happened? And when it goes bam, sometimes that falling apart feels worse than when you first came in. I remember one student says to me, this is so terrible, I can never go back. That's true, you can't. Once you know it, you can never go back. But what you're at choice for is not to beat yourself up in the process, right? It's not about slipping and sliding backwards. Because see, that's what this whole thing about the butterfly is, and that's your awakening. It's a process, okay? There is no, look, if you believe like I do that we're eternal, there is no X that marks a spot. There is no place to get to. All right, it's all about process and experience. If you think that there's something to do, then that's the way that's going to order your world. If you are thinking that you're here to experience the joy and the abundance and the love, then that's how that's going to order your world. Okay. What do I always say? That the universe is within you. You're not in the universe. You are not out there at large and at risk. The world is working for you. It is not happening to you. You are not a victim. You are in a process. I just said that. I just said the V word, right? You're not a victim. And there's no judgment over that because all of us go through, I'm watching Brenda smile over there. Yeah. Right? Because, some of the reverends that went through the school, like Brenda, she counsels people too. She knows, right? And we counsel ourselves. And so we know, I'm not standing up here as someone who says, look, you know what? These things I do, you can do also and more. I'm not standing up here saying that. We already know that that teacher has already been and is with us now. What I'm telling you is that anytime a reverend stands up here, it should be sharing with you things that they've learned, things that they've observed. And they should also be saying to you things like, struggle's not necessary. It's not. It doesn't mean that I don't feel like I struggle sometimes, right? Because there's a difference. There's a difference between thinking and feeling that you're struggling and what's really going on. Right? What's really going on is you're a divine presence on this plane. That's the truth. That's what's really going on. It's not about getting it right or wrong. It's about remembering who you are. It's about enlarging your own experience. It's about looking at others and seeing who they really are and not judging them. We believe that people come here and in some part pick their own experiences to have as souls. And we're not here to judge them for that. I mean, when I see someone out there who is homeless, and this is why that sacred space is so involved with the homeless. Well, it's not about fixing the homeless. It's about reaching out to our brothers and sisters and saying, look, you've chosen this on some level, some of you, because things happen, but you've chosen this on some level. And we're here to give you love and support through that process. We're not here to fix it. We're not here to say it's wrong. Because, years ago, and I've said this before, years ago, I was going through a fast food and decided to, some of you have heard this, decided to share a breakfast with a homeless person. And he'd been homeless for 16 years. And he said, Patricia, all I'm asking is that people don't judge me because I choose not to have four walls and bills, right? When I hold a sign out there, I'm not saying, hey, you have to give me something. He says, I'm holding a sign out as a possibility. I love that. I'm holding the sign out as a possibility if you would like to help me out. So, it's just so important to make sure that we're not judging ourselves or others in this process. It's a big process. It's a long journey. You're going to have big awakenings, and you're going to have big hurts sometimes. You're going to have big fears. And if you just look around, other people are having the fears too. Hold each other. Hold each other through the fears and the pain. And then you can remember who you really are. When I look at you today, right now, it's easy to remember who you are. You know what's not always easy? Is when you're in the midst of that pain. You're in the midst of that story. It's not easy to look at your partner or your children or your friend or even in the mirror and remember who you really are. That's why we do so much work around those times so that we can have that extra boost and remember what we're doing. When you're ready to fly, the butterfly comes out as it gets out of the chrysalis, and its wings are wet. So that's why the other thing, that struggle analogy doesn't work so well. The wings are wet. That's where you're at. That's where I'm at. Our wings are wet. And then as we go out into that divine light, into the sun of knowing, then it starts to dry our wings. And we start to go, hey, maybe I am okay. Maybe I am unlimited. Right? And we start to flap. Hey, maybe I can do this. Maybe it doesn't matter what people say. Maybe I can follow my heart. Because, if you've known me for a while, I come up with some stuff. And I say, well, let's do this. And everybody's like, oh, Patricia. They say that, but they're there and they're loving and they're supportive. But you just never know what's going to come out of my mind and my mouth, because I'm like, hey, okay, we did that. Now I'm ready for the next thing. Let's go. Because why would I want to sit and stagnate? I have one time around as Patricia. One. I am going to take full advantage of it. I'm going to live everything I can as Patricia. I am going to push out every wall. I'm going to make people uncomfortable. Heck, I make myself uncomfortable, okay? I am going to do everything I can to shake it up. Because that's who I am. Doesn't have to be who you are, but that's who I am. I love change, right? I told my husband some years ago, I can't stand change. It's so terrible. And he says, what do you mean? You are always changing things up. I was like, that's when I remember that's who I am. I'm a change agent. And I'm a spiritual change agent. That's what I do. I like to do that. I like to be on the edge of being uncomfortable. Can you believe that? I like that feeling. You know why? Because then I know I'm going to grow. I know that I'm going to flap my wings, and while I'm flapping, I'm going to be like everyone else, thinking, is this going to work? Is this strong enough? Is this going to work? And then I've learned something else. I've learned to let go of the outcome. When I've done my part, I've learned to let go of the outcome. So when money things come up, Bruce and I always have this thing. He'll say, hey, looks like we need this and this. And I'll say, I'll listen to it. I let it go in me. I feel, okay, that's it, the emotion, right? I feel that we're safe, that we're fine. And I say, okay, well, it'll be here in the next week. I don't know how it's coming. I don't know what it's going to do. I just know it's going to be there, and it always is. It always is. Now, I don't have a key to the universe. I don't have this little formula that I plug in. When I was looking at this space, thought, oh my goodness, that's a little bit more than I thought. So, my dad loved to barter and things like that. So, what can they do? Say no? I can live with a no, but they can't say yes if you don't ask.
Right.
So that's what I did. I asked, and then I negotiated, and I did things that make me a little uncomfortable. But I had a bigger vision. And when you get a bigger vision for yourself like that, you can understand that anything you want, anything, as long as it's not harming others, is yours. You see, we've forgotten how to dream. That's what it is. We've forgotten how to dream. And when we dream, we tend to dream pretty small. We have two dreams, don't we? We have the realistic dream, and we have the big dream. And the big dream out here is like, well, if I were blah, 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 if I could. So the big dream is always attached to the if factor, because we have a belief that it's not really going to happen, that we really can't fly that far. And then we have the little dream, the one that we settle for, the one we live with. And that is the ones that we go, well, look, I was able to do that. That's nice. And then we spend the rest of our life complaining about this dream, the one that didn't come true. Anybody have dreams that didn't come true? Yeah. Right? At some point we thought, now I had dreams that didn't come true until later I realized that I didn't understand what was happening for me, that there was a bigger picture. And sometimes those prayers and dreams aren't answered because we have other work to do. I thought I was going to go and have a PhD and be a professor. That didn't happen. That was the one that got away. That was the dream that didn't happen. Until I realized, wow, after Michael and I had our accident, and we almost lost our lives, and then I started on this journey, I would have always been up here instead of here. I had to drop down into my heart. I also said that I was never going to be a minister and give services, so that's so that's how that works. But you see, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. So that dream didn't happen for a reason. We can't always see the reason. If you have a little patience, it's like a big old puzzle, and you're at one piece. And this is what you have. You have that vision of the one piece. You don't get to see the whole puzzle. If you have a little patience, you start to spread out, you start to see the bigger picture. So let go of the outcome. Don't worry about your expectations. Things are gonna happen just as they happen, and they'll be perfect. Always perfect. Always, always perfect. Okay.